Nobody could paint that. It's medically how the human eyeball works, and that's how it is in the Tilma.
There is a new documentary dropping December 12th of this year, and it's called Not Made by Human Hands. We're here with the creators, Zach Brakefield and Whitney Hetzel. This is about Our Lady of Guadalupe, about the incredible miracles that she has made and what role she still plays today and she needs to play in the future for America. Zach, Whitney, so good to be with you both.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here.
Let's begin as we always do with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Let's jump right in, because I think for a lot of people, they've heard about Our Lady of Guadalupe, particularly if they live in America. You know, everybody in Mexico knows. But, you know, they've heard about this. They're not sure exactly what it is. And let's start with the most compelling scientific evidence that this is a real thing. Your documentary is called Not Made by Human Hands, and I think everybody knows, but if you don't know, this image appears miraculously. Why don't you start with that? Give us a really small nutshell version of that for people who don't know the story.
What's funny is when we started this project, I came in as a cradle practicing Catholic, just knowing the very, very basics. In a nutshell of Our Lady Guadalupe, it was St. Juan Diego saw our Blessed Mother, had the image imprinted on the Tilma, end of story. and that was my knowledge, unfortunately, at the time. But over this last year and a half of research and development of this project, it has been eye-opening to see all the miraculous events that have taken place. And so it's very hard to put into a nutshell all of it. But, you know, it's amazing, I think, for me to look at the eyes of the Blessed Mother. You know, Our Lady appeared to Juan Diego 500 years ago, approximately. And in her apparition, in how she appears visually, and what she says, all has deep meaning and roots. But what's amazing is Our Lady, when she appeared, did not just come for that time in 1531, but still remains just as relevant to this day and for her message. And that's seen through these scientific discoveries of seeing the figures in Our Lady's eyes that Bishop Zumarraga and St. Juan Diego would not have known was in existence until this time. And so, you know, Our Lady is not done reaching out to us.
Yeah. I would echo what Zach said as well. As you mentioned, the story, you know, Our Lady appeared in 1531 to Juan Diego. There's a lot more detail that we go into, and we actually have the Nika Mapoa, which was written probably 30 years or so later, so we can use that as a first source. But thinking about the most compelling scientific mysteries, there's so many, and the eye thing is, I mean, Father Spitzer explained it so well to us. We were able to sit down with Father Spitzer, and he, you know, explained multiple people, first in 1921 and then in 1951, and then between 1951 and 1980, like over 20 ophthalmologists have studied this and have seen in her cornea not just a reflection, but this triple reflection, which is how we all see things, two images with the third flipped over. Yeah. There's no way.
No,
it's 1531.
Exactly. Like nobody could paint that. It's medically how the human eyeball works, and that's how it is in the Tilma, in her.
It's amazing.
So that's super cool for all, and this is really for the skeptics, because a lot of people are like, come on, you know, it's an image made by heaven. Give me a break. Yet we know it's been there all this time. We know it's an artifact that has been basically on display for most of its existence, not painted. There it is, and is being studied by the top scientists in the world, and they're discovering this stuff, seeing in the eye, the stuff that in 1531, did they even know about the three different ways that the eye sees like that?
They did not. They did not. That was a late discovery later, right?
So that's just incredible.
It really is. And it continually surprises us as we are making this film, how much Our Lady is speaking to us today, and how this was not a one-time event, and this was not just for Mexico. This is truly for the world. And as you said, I mean, we actually approached it that way through a skeptical eyes, and it was helpful having Zach not know that much about it. And I didn't know that much more, but I had always wanted to do do one of our series on Our Lady of Guadalupe. But I knew that we needed to do it when we could do it really well and do it in Spanish. And but having Zach not have any real knowledge of it was helpful because he was the skeptic, really.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what helps this film in a different perspective. Everything that we put forth is from a skeptic's perspective. We are there to present the factual evidence, the scientific evidence, the historical accounts, and present it to the viewer. And obviously, we are all believers. And you're overwhelmed when you get to the end of the 7 episodes. You're overwhelmed with proof and factual evidence that this is true. And it's not in a sappy, propaganda-ish kind of way. It truly presents things that are undeniable to the viewer.
Like Father Spitzer as a scientist, and we have Jorge Sevilla, who has a PhD in nautical studies, Father Heenan, who's in Guadalajara, even our videographer in Guadalajara has really worked hard with us on the script because he himself has done so much study and he's kind of becoming his own scholar on that. But we're only using those sources that are authentic, and so not only in the contributors, but also in the scholarly research that we've been able to do. We feel like this is just a great presentation of the authentic nature of the Tilma and the apparition and everything around it.
Beautiful. Now, you mentioned, Zach, right off the bat, it affected your faith a little bit. Can you explain that or describe that to us?
So it's definitely helped further this project because I did come in really unknowing to the entire detailed parts of this apparition. How we have tried to present this is, okay, we tell the entire apparition. We go through the timeline. But if you were to take just one element out of it, say, I don't believe that these figures were divinely put in the cornea of Our Lady. Okay, remove that one element. But then you're faced with 20 more to replace it. And so that for me is what affected me the most, of this overwhelming desire to learn more. And the more you study, the farther you go in this research, the more you are convinced of this is undeniably miraculous and sent here for a reason.
Apart from the image being so miraculous in and of itself, what happened because of the apparition is almost every bit as miraculous. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 500 years ago, you're in Mexico City and there are still human sacrifices taking place. Missionaries come and they have a lot of obstacles in their way. They are honestly not doing very well. They are not succeeding in converting the indigenous peoples. And so it's amazing to think that here are these two cultures and civilizations just clashing. And all it took was one apparition, one miracle, and our Blessed Mother was able to bring them both and unify them both together. And it has everything to do with the visual aspect of how our Blessed Mother appears in her wording to St. Juan Diego, in all, and this is for me the coolest part of the film, is all of the hidden codexes, the divine messages that are hidden. And that's what we get into really deeply with the explanations of the codexes of the Tilma.
Yeah, we also, so in 1521, the Spanish had conquered Mexico City, and then in that time period between 1521 and 1531, there were a lot of indigenous people who were slowly making their way, but if you think about all of their beliefs and the gods, and they were so strong, and also there was a lot of fear there. They really truly did believe that at some point, up until 1521, that truly, in order for another day to begin, they had to, feed their god, Huitzilopochtli, the human blood, and that would kind of create another day. We get into that a little bit. We don't, but our experts do in the film. But so, all of this kind of in-depth belief system that they had to be also, just because the Spanish came and conquered, doesn't mean that they totally believe that. And then unfortunately, the Spanish themselves, a lot of them were not great examples of Christian, morals. And so they weren't helping the missionaries, frankly. Bishop Zamaroga and 12 other Franciscan missionaries actually in some ways had to deal with them as much as they had to deal with the indigenous people and trying to catechize them amidst all these, Spanish, and not all of them were. Many of them did have a deep faith, but there was a lot who didn't and didn't understand. So anyway, that all of that was happening leading up to Our Lady, and Bishop Zamaroga actually begged Our Lady or begged God for a sign because he was at his wit's end. He didn't know how he was going to make any headway. He just wasn't making any headway. And he had just actually sent a letter to Charles V saying, if we're kind of at a loss here, if things don't change in terms of who was in power. And so he appealed to God, and then Our Lady came.
Now, Zach, you said that it has relevance today. Isn't the conversions done? Aren't, now Mexico largely Catholic country? In fact, they're sort of more Catholic than, some parts of the other Western world were supposed to have Our Lady in the first place, and the church in the first place. But what's the relevance today? What does it matter today?
I agree. And this is honestly part of our messaging right now while we're wrapping up this series, is that Our Lady of Guadalupe surrounds us everywhere in the world. I mean, I go to the grocery store and there's a candle of Our Lady of Guadalupe in the aisle, tattoos on sides of buildings, on the back window of a car. I mean, literally everywhere. And I think personally, people just think that's either the, Mexican Mary or, I think there's a disconnect. And so that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to bring viewers to understand who Our Lady Guadalupe really is. And yeah, it's just amazing once you start going down that rabbit hole of trying to explain the message that our Blessed Mother brings. It's a message of hope. You put yourself in the shoes of St. Juan Diego at the time. It was a violent, cruel, harsh world to live in. And unfortunately, it's not much better in today's world. We may not have to worry about ourselves being sacrificed, but there are so many wars, so much violence, so much cruelty. And so we try, and I think we do really accomplish to show what our Blessed Mother is saying and why it's still relevant, and why this, anytime our Blessed Mother comes, it is to direct us to her Son, to direct us to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Pope Pius XI said, men must look for the peace of Christ in the kingdom of Christ. And he urged that the faithful give public honor to Christ the King so that individuals and states would submit once more to the rule of their Savior. And that is why LifeSite News is raising up the image of Christ the King across the United States. And you can help us reach millions more. Please pledge your support today for these billboards at lifefunder.com/Christ is King.
We have the Tilma, most people know, but what was the specific message that she had for the people there and the really leadership there?
A lot of the message did have to do with the fact that her son came as the one sacrifice and that nothing else was necessary. And there was so much distraction over that, even though there was an attempt at conversion. She was coming to say, my son is the truth, the way, the life, and his own sacrifice conquered all other sacrifices. Even in the image she stands before, with the rays of the sun behind her, she's stronger. That God is obviously larger than the sun god, which is one of their gods, and the moon, and stands on top of the moon. And so she's making these connections for the indigenous people, which they must have understood, because why would 9 million of them come into the faith? And as Zach said, I think a lot of it does have to do with what she brought, even just the roses blooming there in December.
Right.
It was a miracle, but then they happened to be Castilian roses, which is where, the Bishop Zamaroga was from, and he had just asked for a sign. But truly, it was the work of the missionaries. The missionaries are, in some ways, kind of the heroes of the story before this, because they've been trying so hard, and Our Lady was really coming to answer a plea that they had asked for, and she was responding directly to Bishop Zamaroga, but for the people, coming as a Spanish as a Spanish, mestiza, which is, the kind of blend of the two cultures so that everybody could understand. It wasn't just for the Mexicans, Spanish, but truly for everybody.
Yes,
and I think that voice, the voice of Our Lady to Juan Diego, those very beautiful,
very soft,
personal.
very poetic. Yes, exactly.
It's interesting because there's an element there that can still teach us today about evangelization, because here we're trying to spread the faith all the time. That's really the longing in everyone's heart, not only to the world outside, but to our kids, to everybody. But when Our Lady comes and does it successfully, when the powers that be can't properly, even though they're trying, she does it in a certain way. She speaks softly, as she said. She talks sort of their language with their clothing. She's dressed as a woman of the time there, like their cultural dress. She is got their constellations in her tilma too. But tell us about that. Like, what could you extract from the way she did it to even bring the faith to your kids, to your friends, to other people in your country?
I do think it's the way that she came. I mean, not just in her presence as a mestiza woman, as the blend between a Spanish and Mexican, and the codice on her tilma, all of that, but I do think the words that she says speak so much, and that soft voice, and she asks. And, throughout there's 4 or 5 actual apparitions, but throughout them, just her voice and the things that she says are so amazing. She knows exactly where Juan Diego is going. At one point, she's asked him to do something for him, and yet his uncle is ill, so he literally scoots around the hill, and she just hoping not to see Our Lady or the Lady, and she comes right to him and, sweet Juan Diego, where are you going, my dear Juanito? And she knows where he's going, but it's just this very gentle way and peaceful way, and do not worry. Am I not your mother? Am I not here? Are you not under the mantle of my arms, of my protection? And it's just such a gentle coaxing. I think it is a real example of how we are supposed to evangelize. I think it's hard because when you have and you believe so strongly and you have a message, you really want to portray that. And sometimes we go to facts and things like that. But I think in the end, it is the way and the voice and the gentleness and the peacefulness that she comes to us, and do not worry and place your cares.
Right. Our Lady's nurturing, mothering care, yes, absolutely, makes you want to.
Yeah, she's answering also the call of everyone's heart, loneliness. I am here. Am I not your mother? I'm with you. So that kind of language speaks also to us here. And he's in dire circumstances. At that point, he's rushing to get a priest, if I'm not mistaken, for his dying uncle. And he feels totally torn between doing what she asked and doing what he knows he has to do as a duty for his uncle. And the story is incredible. But the beauty of her response is that really something. And probably that particular line that you quoted there, Whitney, am I not your mother? That's probably, for me, one of the most memorable. What is it for you that's most memorable? Is it that one as well?
I would say it is for me too. And I think, as Zach was saying before, there's so many elements in this story. And we are so pleased that we've been able to talk to these experts and scholars. And so there's that whole piece where every time you keep unraveling things, there's more history to find out and more science. But there's this language that is universal. And I think that goes to the heart of Mary and what she's saying. And yes, those are the lines. And there are many, throughout the story, which we bring in through the Nicaragua, which explains all of her, it doesn't explain, but basically says all the things that Juan Diego said and that Our Lady said. But those are the ones for me as well, because I think it's not just, it's so personal. And we found throughout this project that she has been touching us in personal, very personal ways. And there's always, obstacles that come up, and we'll be, afraid, we didn't get that contributor, and we got all the way to Mexico and we didn't get to talk to this person. And then, she opens the door for something else. And it's always, in fact, one of our contributors early on, Father Tim, said to us, don't expect this to be easy, because Our Lady will not, it's not all about being easy. And in fact, it won't be easy. Don't expect that, but do expect her to kind of whisper in your ear. And, even if you hear rapido, like hurry up and, keep going, that's Our Lady, and that's kind of how she works. There's obstacles, but am I not here? Who am I mothered?
Exactly.
So you're experiencing a little bit of Juan Diego's treatment, are you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've said that many times, actually.
Very good. So, but there have been documentaries made in the past on Our Lady of Guadalupe. What makes yours different?
So how we have formatted ours into a 7-part series is kind of what you would expect to see on Netflix with how documentaries are presented. Very cinematic, very compelling storytelling, but presenting it in a way that takes you through the guiding light of this entire story truly is the Nikan Mapoa. And until we started this, I had never heard of that term before. I didn't know what that meant. But it is the historical documents of all of the basically transcription of what took place between St. Juan Diego, the bishop, and Our Lady. And so we use this as our main source telling this story. And I do think that it really encompasses Our Lady and her personality. And so I think that is our biggest difference. Yeah.
Yes, I do too. And then I think we've done a really excellent job, and I believe it's Our Lady who has put everything in front of us. But with our contributors, we have a scientist, we have Father Spitzer, and he's a brilliant mind, and he's telling us it's right here. And we have the scholars, and we're talking to them, and then we have those who have been affected personally. When we went to Mexico City a year ago, we stayed with nuns just a couple blocks away from the basilica, and they didn't speak any English. We didn't really speak much Spanish, but our videographer from Guadalajara was there, so he translated through them and with us. So, but then we were able to just walk every day to the basilica, see the Tilma. So I think that there's just been so many things that Our Lady has really personally brought to fruition, and it's so obvious to us that I think hopefully that will come across and that will be reflected in the docuseries.
Beautiful. What's your favorite experience for both of you? What's your favorite experience in making the film?
Oh gosh, I truly think being in Mexico City, there at the basilica it was a year ago, so it was kind of at the beginning of it, but I think I kind of being able to see it, and when you're in the plaza, the basilica sits open, but the doors are massive, and they happen to be open that day, which I think they are often. And she's there, and you can see her, and it's like she calls you in. It's amazing. You walk in, and you're in this, old plaza with the old basilica there in front of you, which is beautiful. And then this new, very modern basilica. But there, you kind of look to the left, and you see all the way in there is the Tilma, and it just kind of pulls you in. And so I think when you see that with your eyes, to me right there, I just truly wanted to make sure I brought that to, because not very many people can go to Mexico City to see the Tilma. So I thought that was kind of hit me as this is what I want to do. I want to help bring this to life for people who never get to go and don't believe or have some reason, maybe they're away from their faith or they're not Catholic at all. And that really touched me when I walked into the basilica.
Yeah. For me, I would say it was being able to sit down with Father Spitzer. I mean, a well-known scholar, doctor, listening to his findings, his studies, his interpretations of other scientists' studies and findings. I would say I'm a moderate skeptic, and I think that's why I was the right guy for the job to lay out this whole thing. But it was so compelling going through each study, listening to Father, what he said, and it's just how he said it. And that's what I'm so excited to be able to bring to the viewers, because I feel like we're sitting on a gold mine of information presented in such a way that is beautiful. And Father Spitzer, to me, really, he hit it home for me, and I really felt connected and understood and recognized, like, okay, you don't have to acknowledge and accept these scientific studies because they're still unexplainable. I mean, science cannot prove any of this. But how Father Spitzer sits there and explains how each individual fiber of this tilma, and it's made from cactus fibers, so very coarse, nothing is uniformed, but each fiber individually naturally is the color that you see in the tilma. And to me, that is what hit it home for me. And I was just like, this is not a painting. This is the only image, heavenly image, that has ever been sent to earth. I mean, that's why we call it not made by human hands. And so it's just very powerful.
It's still here after 500 years. So
Exactly.
Unblemished, really. So
that one I'd never heard before, that they're the natural colors of the, so it's almost like a mosaic in a way then.
Yeah, the pigment is also unknown, and it's unknown. They've never been able to actually say where this could come from. We don't have anything else in existence and that's why it's not paint, it's not on it, it's in it. It's a part of the fabric of the agave material, which is just remarkable.
Fascinating. Looking forward to seeing it. So December 12th, where can we get it?
So, we are working on that. As a matter of fact, we have our Kickstarter campaign running. And so we are definitely going to have it up on goodcatholic.com, but then we are also trying very hard to get it on all major streaming platforms. And so, we're kind of reaching out and asking for assistance there. We really need everyone's support in order to make that happen.
All right. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
Oh, we're just really thrilled that you're interested as well, and that we're happy that you've asked us to be on here, because we just want to get the word out, and we think it's going to be an amazing docuseries, and so we very much appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I'm very hopeful that this will reach viewers and help convert and bring them back to our Blessed Mother, who then directs them to her Son.
Whitney Hetzel, Zach Brakefield, thank you so very much. Not Made by Human Hands, December 12th, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And God bless all of you. And we'll see you next time.
The Lord be with you. I'm Deacon Keith Fournier, and I hope you enjoyed this video from LifeSite News. Check the links in the description for more content like this. You can also connect with LifeSite News on social media and stay up to date with the latest news on life, faith, family, and freedom. Thanks for watching, and may the Lord bless you.